and try to resolve the Kashmir crisis.
This is the center of everything. This is why President-elect Obama is 100% right to say that the secret to this whole thing is to satisfy Kashmir. Now, well, why is Kashmir a problem? It's been a problem since 1948. The longest standing UN mission in the world is in Kashmir, 1948.
Yeah. So what is the connection between the dispute in Kashmir?
The fact is that Kashmir is really at the center of 6 decades of tension and conflict. But India occupied 2/3 of the area.
The tension in and around the disputed Kashmir region has been rising for weeks.
A new day of violence in Muslim-majority Kashmir as protests continue against Indian rule. There's been more than just warning shots on Monday. Rounds fired by police have killed a number of pro-independence demonstrators and wounded scores more.
Some did, and police began firing.
We'd arrived in Kashmir. Just before our camera showed up, I'd watched these police beat and tear gas a group of women protesters.
Last night, the forces came to her house and they took away her mother and her father. She and her neighbours and friends and family came to protest. They were just standing in the road. Next thing, the Kashmiri police, security forces came here, started tear gassing them, beating the women, including one very savage woman officer who had a stick, and started beating randomly, kicking people on the ground.
The Indian-controlled region, which has a Muslim majority, has been in turmoil.
Kashmir is occupied by hundreds of thousands of Indian troops, making it one of the highest militarized zones in the world.
Thousands of armed police officers and soldiers patrolled the streets in Srinagar to enforce the indefinite curfew on the city and many other Muslim towns in the volatile Himalayan region. Muslims have been agitating for the region to leave India, and almost 70,000 people have died in violence.
Now we had a camera, I could question them about their actions. Excuse me, is it your policy to beat women protesters?
Hit me, madam. Are you going to hit me with that stick? Madam, were you about to hit me with that stick? He's telling her not to raise her stick to the foreign reporters. Not very good PR.
500,000 Indian troops and police are here to keep the Muslim population Indian.
Excuse me, sir, could I speak to you about your officer who beat these women? Excuse me, there she is, this woman here.
The policewoman I'd seen beating the women viciously ran away from the camera.
The Indian soldiers are free to choose whom they wish to rape, and they rape them. It doesn't matter the age. I interviewed an 82-year-old Kashmiri woman who had been raped by 10 Indian soldiers. I interviewed her family, who documented that this has happened. And you and I know, and the world should know, that it's a very difficult thing for a Muslim woman to admit she has been violated. But for this 82-year-old great-grandmother of many children, it was outrageous. I interviewed a 10-year-old child, a little girl named Shakila, who was shot through the face, and her whole right eye was blown away, her face was blown away, and I interviewed her. She's surviving with 40 blood transfusions. I interviewed men who've had their clothes taken off in the streets of Srinagar to humiliate them, naked. Then gunpowder sprayed all over their body and set on fire. I filmed those things. I interviewed those people. I have never seen such abuse anywhere else in the world.
Muslims have been agitating for the region to leave India, and almost 70,000 people have died in violence.
Some want Kashmir to belong to Pakistan. Most want independence. The trials of daily life here breed despair.
In 1948, a UN resolution was passed promising the mainly Muslim Kashmiris the right to hold a plebiscite. The issue was whether Kashmir should belong to Muslim Pakistan or to largely Hindu India. No such plebiscite was ever held.
Kashmir waits for the world conscience to see with open eyes the rape of its innocent women and the massacre of its children. Kashmir waits for the United Nations of the world to remember their promise of a plebiscite and to remind this to India. Kashmir
might the attention of the world community be drawn to this region, and the people be given the right to determine their future, as they once were promised in the 1940s.